Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
What started as a friendly morning chat on Today with Jenna and Friends turned into one of the most explosive cultural debates of the year. Country superstar Blake Shelton walked onto the set expecting lighthearted talk about music and life, but he wasn't ready for the pointed question that lit a fire under him. "Blake," Jenna asked with that calm Southern smile, "do you think modern country has lost its soul?" The audience laughed nervously. Blake chuckled too, at first. But what followed was 20 minutes of escalating tension that had viewers at home clutching their coffee mugs in disbelief. Blake defended country's evolution, arguing it's about stories and survival, not stereotypes. Jenna pushed back hard, saying today's country sounds like pop with a cowboy hat. The polite tone didn't last. By the end, cameras caught Blake standing up, ripping off his mic, and storming off the set. Social media exploded within minutes. Blake Shelton just walked on Jenna Live. This is wild. If you thought morning TV was predictable, think again. The show opened with the familiar upbeat jingle of Today with Jenna and Friends. Sunlight poured through the studio windows, casting a warm glow over the cheerful set. Jenna Bush Hager, dressed in a soft pastel blouse, turned to the camera with that signature Southern charm. "Y'all, today is special," she said, her Texas roots slipping into her voice. "We've got country music royalty in the house, Blake Shelton." The audience erupted in applause as Blake walked in, all smiles in his dark denim jacket and cowboy boots. He waved casually, flashing that easy grin fans know so well, and took a seat across from Jenna. "Blake, it is so good to see you. Last time we talked, you were telling me about life on the farm. How's that going?" Blake chuckled. "Well, Jenna, you know me. I'm happiest with dirt under my boots. Been planting tomatoes and trying to keep the critters from eating everything." The crowd laughed warmly. The conversation started light. Gardening, Blake's latest tour, and of course, his marriage to Gwen Stefani. Jenna teased, "So does Gwen like the farm life, or is she still a California girl at heart?" Blake grinned. "Let's just say she's learned how to wear boots, but not for working." The audience roared with laughter. But then, Jenna's tone shifted, just slightly. Her smile stayed, but her words carried a sharper edge. "So, Blake," she said, folding her hands on the desk, "you've been the face of modern country for a while now. A lot of folks out there say country music's changed. Some would argue it's lost its roots. What do you think?" Blake's grin faded for the first time. He tilted his head, considering her words. "Well, I think music changes because people change. Country ain't stuck in the 1950s. It's telling stories, and those stories evolve with the world." Jenna nodded politely, but her eyes had that glint, the kind that signaled she wasn't done. "But when you hear people say today's country sounds more like pop with a twang, do you ever worry about losing what made country special?" Blake let out a slow breath, leaning forward slightly. "Jenna, I hear that all the time, and honestly, it kind of ticks me off. Folks act like if there's a drum machine or a crossover, suddenly it ain't real country. That's nonsense. Country is about heart, not about how many fiddles you got." The audience murmured, sensing the energy in the room shift. Jenna kept her smile, but she didn't back down. "Some would say, though," she pressed, "that by chasing charts, country's forgotten the farmers, the small towns, the people who built this genre. Do you think that criticism has any truth?" Blake's jaw tightened, but he forced a laugh. "Jenna, I think those people don't know what they're talking about, and I'll tell you why." The cameras caught it, a flicker of irritation in Blake's eyes, the way his hand gripped his coffee mug just a little too tight. The audience leaned in. What started as a lighthearted chat was turning into something else, something heavier. And this was just the beginning. The studio air thickened as Blake leaned back in his chair, jaw set, his easygoing grin replaced by a look that could cut steel. Jenna, still smiling, adjusted her note cards, clearly sensing the tension but unwilling to steer away from the heat.
Well, Blake said slowly, I guess it's easy to sit here in a studio in New York City and tell people what real country is. But I live it, Jenna. I wake up every day on a farm. I talk to the people you're talking about. And you know what? They ain't complaining about my music. The audience responded with a few claps and murmurs of approval. Jenna held her ground. Blake, I'm not saying you're not authentic. I'm asking about the genre as a whole. When fans, lifelong fans, say they feel like Nashville's forgotten its roots, doesn't that bother you even a little? Blake's voice sharpened. What bothers me is people acting like country music is a museum. It's not. It's alive. It changes. And guess what? Some folks out there, they love this new sound. You think Morgan Wallen, Luke Bryan, Casey Musgraves, they're not real country? Tell that to the millions of fans buying tickets. Jenna nodded, but her expression tightened. But isn't that the issue? It's become about ticket sales, not tradition. Isn't country supposed to be about storytelling, about the heart of America, not chasing what's trendy? Blake's hand slammed, gently, not aggressively, but with force, onto the armrest of his chair. Country is about storytelling, Jenna. But guess what? The heart of America ain't the same as it was in 1955. People got smartphones now. They're on TikTok. They're working 3 jobs just to pay bills. Those stories are different, but they're still real. The audience broke into applause, some even shouting, "That's right." Jenna held her ground, smiling tightly, sensing both the stakes and the opportunity. So, Blake, would you admit then that today's country music is more about appealing to the masses than honoring the traditions that built it? Blake laughed, a sharp, humorless chuckle. You know what that sounds like, Jenna? That sounds like somebody who wants country to stay in the box so it makes them comfortable. Let me tell you something. If country stayed stuck in the past, it'd be dead. You wouldn't even have me sitting here talking to you about it because nobody would care. Jenna blinked, her voice firm now. I'm not saying it should stay stuck. I'm saying maybe it shouldn't lose the soul of where it came from. Blake leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes locked on hers. And who decides that, huh? Who decides what the soul of country is? You? People on Twitter? Music is for everybody, Jenna, not just purists who think a banjo is the only thing that makes a song country. The audience clapped again, but this time the room felt divided. Some cheering Blake's passion, others looking uncomfortable as the tension mounted. Jenna's tone softened slightly, but it was clear she wasn't done pushing. Do you ever feel, she asked slowly, like the people in Nashville, the big names, including you, are out of touch with the everyday fans who feel left behind? That question landed like a punch. Blake froze for a second, his face tightening. The camera zoomed in, catching the flash of irritation in his eyes. Out of touch, he repeated, his Oklahoma drawl thicker now. Jenna, I go home after every tour. I drink beer with my neighbors. I don't hide in some ivory tower. The only folks out of touch are the ones sitting here telling me what my fans think when I talk to them every damn day. The audience gasped. Blake had dropped the damn word on morning television. Jenna's eyes widened just a fraction, then she smiled, a cool, practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Well, she said lightly, I guess we're really getting into it now. Blake leaned back, crossing his arms, his jaw tight. Yeah, I guess we are. The set felt charged, electric. No one was laughing anymore. Jenna shuffled her cards, trying to maintain composure, while Blake sat like a storm cloud ready to break. And everyone watching knew this wasn't just an interview anymore. It was a showdown.
The silence that followed Jenna's last line was deafening. The audience shifted in their seats, sensing something had cracked wide open. This wasn't playful morning banter anymore. This was raw, real. Blake stared at Jenna, his blue eyes sharp as steel. He leaned forward, his voice low but trembling with controlled fury. You know what, Jenna? I've been doing this for over 20 years. I've stood on every kind of stage there is, from a bar in Ada, Oklahoma, to sold-out stadiums. I've shaken hands with farmers, Truck drivers, school teachers, and soldiers. I've buried friends who never made it home. And you're going to sit there and tell me I'm out of touch? The audience erupted, gasps, murmurs, even a few cheers. Jenna, taken aback by the intensity in Blake's tone, blinked but didn't back down. Blake, I'm not attacking you personally. Yes, you are, Blake shot back, his voice louder now, echoing through the studio. You just said Nashville, me, is out of touch with real America. Well, let me tell you something. I am real America. I grew up dirt poor. My dad worked in a garage. My mom worked in a beauty salon. We didn't have much, but we had music and we had each other. That's country music. That's as real as it gets. The crowd clapped loudly, some even whistling. Jenna's polished on-camera smile faltered for the first time. She straightened in her chair, her voice firm. Blake, I respect your story. I do. But don't you think success changes things? When you're living in a mansion, flying private, making millions, how can you possibly understand what it feels like to live paycheck to paycheck anymore? That landed like a sledgehammer. The audience oohed, sensing the escalation. Blake's face turned crimson, his jaw tight. He exhaled sharply through his nose, then stood up halfway, gripping the arm of his chair before sitting back down with force. You think money erases my past? You think I forgot where I came from? You think I don't remember the nights I went to bed hungry, or the days I didn't know how we were going to pay the electric bill? Let me tell you something, Jenna. I worked my tail off for everything I got, and I never once turned my back on the people who put me here. The audience roared, but Jenna wasn't done. Her tone softened, but her words hit like knives. Blake, I'm not saying you forgot your roots. I'm saying maybe the industry you're defending has. And the fans, your fans, are the ones saying it. Doesn't that matter? Blake's breathing quickened. His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, the kind that makes a room lean in. You know what matters to me? The mom who comes up to me after a show and says my song got her through chemo. The soldier who writes me a letter saying my music reminded him of home. That's who I sing for, Jenna. Not Twitter critics, not TV hosts who want to stir the pot for ratings. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Jenna, visibly flushed, opened her mouth to respond, but Blake cut her off, his voice booming now, breaking through the tension like thunder. I'm sick of people sitting in fancy studios, drinking lattes, telling the rest of us what's real. You want to know what real America is? It's working hard, loving your family, and holding on to hope when the world kicks you in the teeth. That's country music. And if you can't see that, then maybe you're the one who's out of touch. The audience exploded. Cheers, applause, even a few people on their feet. Jenna's face stiffened, her professional mask cracking as she struggled to maintain control. Well, she said, her voice tight, we've hit a nerve. Blake leaned back in his chair, his chest heaving, his expression a mix of rage and defiance. His hands gripped the armrests like a man holding himself from walking out. The cameras caught every detail. The fire in his eyes, the tension in Jenna's clenched jaw, the stunned silence after the applause faded. This wasn't just a disagreement anymore. This was a showdown about identity, authenticity, and respect. And for millions watching at home, it felt like a battle between two Americas, one clinging to tradition, the other challenging what real means in a changing world. But the storm wasn't over. Not yet, because Blake Shelton wasn't done. Not by a long shot.
The applause from Blake's last outburst was still echoing when Jenna tried to regain control of the show. She flashed that familiar TV smile, forced, tight around the edges, but her eyes were sharp. Blake, she said evenly, we appreciate your passion, but this is a conversation, not a shouting match. Blake leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his voice rough with anger. A conversation? Jenna, you invited me here to talk about my new music, not to accuse me of being some kind of fraud. You turned this into a circus. Gasps rippled through the audience. Jenna's co-host shifted uncomfortably, but Jenna held her ground, her tone dripping with that morning show calmness that can sometimes feel like gasoline on fire.
No one's accusing you of being a fraud, Blake. We're just asking, can celebrities like you truly relate to the struggles of everyday Americans? That was it, the final straw. Blake pushed back his chair so hard it screeched against the polished floor. The audience jolted at the sound as Blake stood to his full height, towering over the coffee table between them. His voice thundered across the set. I am everyday America, Jenna. I came from nothing. I worked every lousy bar, every honky-tonk stage, slept in my damn truck some nights just to make it. And now, because I busted my butt and made something of myself, you saying I don't get it anymore? Jenna raised her hand slightly, a placating gesture. Blake, no one's diminishing your hard work. Don't, he snapped, pointing a finger at her, his Oklahoma drawl thickening with every syllable. Don't stand there and act like this is about some big picture debate. You made it personal. You tried to paint me as some out-of-touch sellout in front of America, and I ain't playing that game. The tension was electric. Audience members shifted, whispering, a few wide-eyed fans clutching their phones already recording what they knew would blow up online. Blake's voice dropped low and deadly calm now, the kind of tone that sends shivers through a room. You know what's wrong with this whole thing? Folks like you think country music needs to change, needs to be shinier, fancier, something it ain't. But country music ain't about keeping up with trends or politics. It's about stories. It's about life. It's about truth. And if you don't get that, he paused, staring straight into Jenna's eyes, his jaw clenched so hard you could see the muscles twitch. Then, with a sharp shake of his head, he stepped back. Then maybe I don't need to be sitting here defending myself. Before anyone could stop him, Blake ripped the mic pack from his back, the cord snapping free. He tossed it on the chair with a loud thud that made the audience gasp. The studio floor manager scrambled, but Blake was already striding toward the edge of the stage, his boots pounding like drum beats. Blake, wait! Jenna called after him, her voice cracking slightly as she tried to maintain composure. We're live! He didn't even glance back. One hand shot up in a dismissive wave as he stormed off camera, leaving Jenna frozen in her seat, her polished smile shattered into shock. The cameras, unsure what to do, cut to a wide shot, capturing the stunned audience, some on their feet, others whispering into their phones. The entire studio buzzed with disbelief. Jenna turned back to the camera, her voice shaky but determined to salvage the moment. Well, folks, we didn't expect that. We'll be right back after this break. But everyone knew the moment couldn't be undone. Clips of Blake's fiery walk-off were already rocketing across social media, hashtags exploding, hashtag Blake storms off, hashtag country versus culture, hashtag Blake Shelton unfiltered. By the time the commercial rolled, the damage and the drama was done.
The headlines were writing themselves. Blake Shelton didn't just leave the set. He left a cultural firestorm behind. When the cameras faded to black that morning, the studio felt like the aftermath of a thunderstorm, silent, tense, electric. But outside those walls, the storm was just beginning. Within minutes, clips of Blake Shelton ripping off his mic and storming off today with Jenna and Friends were everywhere. Twitter lit up with hashtags like hashtag Blake Unleashed, hashtag Team Blake, and hashtag Jenna versus Blake. TikTok edits of the heated exchange racked up millions of views before the hour was over. This wasn't just a talk show spat, it became a cultural flashpoint. Comment sections split in two. One side cheered Blake, calling him a true country hero who stood up for authenticity and refused to let the media box him in. The other side backed Jenna, praising her for asking hard questions and accusing Blake of overreacting under pressure. Country radio hosts weighed in. Morning shows replayed the clip on loop. Even major outlets picked up headlines like Blake Shelton walks off live TV after heated clash on country music and culture. Or did Jenna go too far, or did Blake prove a point? But beyond the headlines, this moment hit on something deeper. A question that has simmered in American culture for decades. Should country music evolve with society or stay rooted in tradition? And even more than that, Should artists speak up about politics and culture, or keep their music and escape from it all? Blake's fury wasn't just about one question. It was about feeling cornered, about defending a way of life that millions of Americans still hold close to their hearts. His words, "Country music ain't about keeping up with trends, it's about life, it's about truth," will echo long after this viral moment fades from trending lists. Jenna, to her credit, returned from commercial break with grace. She thanked viewers for staying with them and said, "We welcome all voices at this table." But everyone watching knew the damage and the conversation was already bigger than the show. By afternoon, Blake had posted a short statement on Instagram. "I said what I said, no apologies. Country is who I am, not a PR strategy." The comments? A war zone of clapping emojis and angry replies. Love him or hate him, Blake Shelton reminded the world that the heart of country music and the debate over who gets to define it is still beating strong. What do you think? Should artists keep quiet about culture, or do they owe it to fans to speak their truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you want more unforgettable TV showdowns, hit subscribe, because this is just the beginning.